Joining us, as a former NFL safety, Doug Middleton was his team's last line of defense.
Yeah, and today his goal isn't to stop touchdowns, it's to end America's mental health crisis. Doug made this mission a very passionate one after the shocking suicide of his best friend.
When I heard that, I was in shock. Like I just couldn't believe it, because it's like I just talked to my best friend the day before. Like, you know, there's no way that he took his own life.
From 2016 to 2021, Doug Middleton lived his dream of playing in the NFL. His love of football began as a 6-year-old growing up in North Carolina. For Doug, life was all about football and friends.
As a 6-year-old kid, there was nothing that could compare to scoring touchdowns with your friends or making interceptions or making tackles. There was nothing in life that was like that.
One friend in particular was like family.
Me and AJ played ball together all the way from pretty much 8 years old all the way through high school. Our friendship really just started with just two young kids trying to play sports together.
Doug and AJ were star athletes and both accepted football scholarships. AJ at Fayetteville State and Doug at Appalachian State University.
During those times, we took two different paths, but at the same time, we remained very close and we shared in each other's journey as we tried to figure out life.
In 2011, Doug's freshman year, he gave his life to Jesus.
I was able to put my faith in Jesus Christ and Christianity, and that's what ended up changing my life, because no matter how things have gone, you know, whether they go south or whether they go right, I know that at the end of the day, it may not be my plan, but it's going to be God's plan.
Doug excelled at App State. As a junior, he was named to the All-Conference team, and in 2016, he signed with the New York Jets. Unfortunately, as Doug was thriving, AJ was struggling.
Once AJ got done at Fayetteville State, that's when a lot of the adversity started to really happen in his life, and when those experiences really started to alter, you know, his view on life, and he just slipped into a deep state of depression and really couldn't get out of it. He didn't want to take a shower, he didn't want to go eat, he didn't want to leave the house.
In July 2017, Doug received a call that changed his life.
My wife was with me, and we got a call from my dad. He didn't call my phone, he called her phone, and he had let her know that AJ had just took his own life. When I heard that, I was in shock. You know, I sat there for a few hours, and then it started to really hit me, and I started to cry.
Still mourning, Doug headed to training camp with the Jets. During the first preseason game, he suffered a season-ending injury.
It was as if life just really hit me, because now I had lost a game that I love. I lost pretty much my brother who I've overcome any and everything with and been through any and everything with. Both of my outlets were gone, and it all happened within 1 month. And so I really you know, struggled trying to find my identity, you know, what my identity was outside the game of football.
Doug met a couple who lost their son to suicide. They encouraged him to use his story to help others.
They said, man, listen, you have a true story. You can help a lot of people. You have a platform. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I think AJ didn't die for any reason. I think he died so that you can help a lot of people. And when I heard that from that couple, I felt a huge sense of responsibility. And it wasn't something that I was intimidated by, but something that I definitely welcomed.
In 2017, Doug started the Dream the Impossible Foundation, bringing awareness to mental health and suicide prevention.
For me, the pain of losing my best friend has flipped my life upside down and really turned into my purpose.
Today, Doug dedicates his purpose to AJ's memory. That purpose is his passion, helping others and fulfilling God's plan in his life.
It's a true blessing, and I think it's a true testament to my obedience to God and being able to step in the purpose that he has for me, not really with football, but really off the field. And I think that's why I've been able to continue this journey so much and continue to speak faith in other people's life, is because I listened to those directions that couple gave me when they told me that I have a duty to help other people. And I've accepted that. I've accepted that role. I've accepted the, being able to tell my story and being able to speak for others who can't speak for themselves. I just want to help others heal, and I want to be able to inspire others through my journey and through my passion for life. I want people to look at my life and say that God had a hand on my life, and that through his journey, I know that God can take me through whatever I'm going through.
Charlene, one of the things about Doug I so admire is he's still lamenting and grieving the loss.
You can hear it, yeah.
Yet he said, I'm going to find purpose in this. Yeah. He said, I feel this responsibility, but he wasn't running from it. Like, he felt it was God putting it on his heart, and he's moving forward. I mean, for a while, his identity was probably, I'm a professional football player, right? Yeah. But the injury kind of transitioned him into a different mission now.
Yeah. I think it's really amazing to see his testimony and the fact that he had a choice. He could have chosen to sulk and to go away and just focus on his pain. But instead, he made the decision to take the couple upon the words that they gave him, to use your pain for a higher purpose.
Yeah, otherwise 2 lives are taken,
Exactly.
even if he's still living.
He made a wonderful decision to say, you know what, I'm going to deny myself and help others through my pain. And that's what God often does with our lives. He wants us to use the pains that we're going through in our lives, to help someone else. It's not just about what we're going through, but what have I gone through that could help someone else, the purpose.
And later in today's show, I'm going to sit down with a couple of experts in the mental health arena that are also believers, and they're going to give us some real hope and practical suggestions and wisdom in this area.
Absolutely. Amen. Tasha Layton went from Hollywood for American Idol. Then later, she toured the world with Katy Perry. As a solo artist, she shot up the Billboard charts with mega hits such as How Far and Look What You've Done, which I absolutely love. Yet it wasn't always a straight ride to the top. She sat down with Ephraim Graham to talk about the detours, the dark times, and God's perfect timing through it all.
You were saying that you felt, looking back, you thought some parts of your life were detours. What would you say you thought was a detour? Is it touring with Katy Perry? Is it American Idol? What did you think were detours?
Yeah, most definitely American Idol. I wasn't sure why I was doing that show, but I think looking back, I can see how God used that show to sort of give me an idea of how I could be ministering outside of the church. And so when I left the show, I thought, I think I'm supposed to be doing music outside of the church. And I told my pastor, and he said, we've known that for years, Tasha. We've just been trying, waiting for you to figure it out.
You shared dark times in your life where you were actually contemplating suicide.
Yeah.
What happened?
I had been really wounded in the church, and so I went searching. And at the end of that road of searching, I found myself to be more depressed, more isolated than I ever had felt before. And I tried to take my life. And it was at that lowest of low, though, that I realized Jesus was the only one out of all those things I searched out that had any power to transform or any power to give me true peace.
I can hear my Father singing over me. It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. That's sort of the mantra that I love to hear from you in my rough moments. Just blast that and like, it's gonna be okay. What was that song?
I wrote that about my suicide attempt. And so when we finished, I'll tell you a funny story about it, because I think I share so many dark moments. And I have so many people share their dark moments when we talk about that song. When we finished the demo, I was so pregnant that, I recorded the demo vocal, the scratch vocal, about 30 seconds after we wrote the song. And then when I went back to record my final vocal, I was so pregnant that I couldn't sing. And so the vocal that you hear on the radio is about 30 seconds after we wrote it. But I honestly think that there's something really special about that because the emotions were so raw in the room when we wrote it, and I believe that it really captures that.
It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay.
You know, I'm a late bloomer, if you will. I didn't even start music until I was in my 30s, and you know, didn't start having kids till I was 35. Lord, I'm so tired. But I do think that, you know, it was all God's timing because I have something to say now. I've lived some life. I've had some hardships. My priorities are my family, my husband, and my kids. And I think that has brought a wonderful foundation to what I do in a way that I'm really, really grateful for because my identity is not wrapped up in what I do or my voice or music or anything like that. I'm so firm in who I believe God made me to be. And my goal is to just bring that freedom and courage to everyone who will listen, to know who you are in Christ and to step out knowing that His timing is perfect.
Never forsaken, never abandoned, not for a second. I am safe in your hands, always and forever.
The fact that I have a beautiful family, I'm getting to do what I prayed to get to do when I was a young girl, and seeing people's lives changed every night, can't trade that for anything. I mean, that gets me up in the morning.
There's not a broken too broken for you. Will there ever come a day when you're not holding me together?
So what's next?
Well, I'm on tour right now, and so we're bringing an RV so that we can bring our kids on tour. And so we have been learning all the things about RV life, and you know, what hoses go to what. You don't want to mess those up. Do you know what I mean? We're figuring it out, but it's fun, and we've had memories, and there's no greater, you know, privilege to be able to do it with your family together. And I don't have any mom guilt because I don't leave them at home, you know, so that's awesome.
That's how far your love will go.
What an amazing testament of God's faithfulness. And I love It's Gonna Be Okay. Tasha's singing that song from experience because she knows the one who has the plan for her life. And I just want to encourage you as you're watching this today, just trust God. He knows where you are on the road to the destiny that He has planned for you. And remember the promise that God has given us in Romans chapter 8, verse 28. All things work together. All things, not some things. Detours, pains, struggles in life are all working together for the good of those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. So we can sing it with Tasha. It's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Why? Because we have placed our lives in the hand of the one who has the master plan. Trust and believe that God is working things together for you. I want you to say it just like Tasha. I'm going to be okay because God knows my name. He has a plan for my life, and I don't have to fear. I don't have to worry. All I have to do is trust in God. He knows where you are, and you're going to arrive at your destiny right on God's appointed time, just like Tasha. Praise God. Well, Tasha's latest book is called Look What You've Done, and her latest album is How Far, and both are available nationwide. Andrew?
Amen. We're about to hear from a husband and wife team who are more than authors. Jim Sells is an accomplished professor. He is Rosemary S. Hughes Professor of Christian Thought and Mental Health and co-director of the Karis Institute of Regent University. And Heather Sells is a familiar face here at CBN as the managing editor of CBN News, who has brought us countless wonderful stories over the years. Jim and Heather, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Before we get into a really serious and deep, important topic, I have to ask, husband and wife writing a book together, you have another author as well, but what's that experience been like for you?
Well, Typical in our marriage, Jim is very enthusiastic, has big ideas, and so he was the one who presented the concept for the book to me. But I will tell you that I struggled because I'm used to like quick turns or turning a story within a couple days, you know, maybe a couple weeks, but this was like a couple years. So for me, this was a challenge.
Yeah. I think it's great for every couple to do what they each do individually, finding ways to do this thing together collaboratively. So Heather contributed with a thing that she can just contribute, and that's interviewing people. That's what she does here. And she didn't have to become a psychologist. She could be a journalist. And so we could blend our unique traits, and I think every couple really has to do that. If it's gardening and auto mechanics, finding some way to do that collaboratively.
Well, here's another unique blending that's going on here. This is such an important topic, mental health in this country. And so you're showing churches how to work with mental health professionals, because isn't there often a cynicism between Christians relying on medicine or how they view the secular and how the secular views the faith component? You're trying to bring those together.
Correct. Yeah. The insufficiency and adequacy to address the problem cannot be met successfully unless churches and clinicians are collaborating. The problem is too big and the cost is too high.
Are they realizing this now?
Yes. There is an abundance of grassroots examples popping up in churches and communities all over the country. And I was most caught with it by simply driving through a country road in South Carolina, and I drove past a church and it just said family council here. This was in the middle of a rural area, and I thought of all the things they could put on their marquee, not Bible study Wednesday 7 o'clock or prayer meeting. It's like, if your son or daughter has an opioid addiction, come here. We can help. And that was the message implied in that family council here. And that theme is addressed in every community, in every church, in some way or another.
Well, Heather, what we're seeing here, it's in the light now that Christians, Christian families, believers have mental health. They have addictions, but also mental health struggles. What are you seeing in the Christian community even regarding mental health and challenges people are having?
Well, I think during the pandemic, a lot of the stigma, not all of it, but some of the stigma lessened. People became more aware that this really is an issue. Churches became more aware. And so we talk about this in the book. We're seeing even more pastors just talk about it openly from the public, like, I'm struggling.
Yeah, they hit it a long time.
And pastors used to be worried, I can't preach if I talk about this. Now pastors are talking about this.
That takes courage.
Yeah,
really
it takes courage, but also what it does is it lets people in the pews know this is okay to talk about. I'm not a bad Christian because I'm struggling with my mental health, and let me be transparent with my Christian community who ultimately can come alongside me and walk me through this.
Jim, the title, Beyond the Clinical Hour.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
90% of all mental health care is defined by that 50-minute hour where a person sits with a counselor, marriage and family therapist, social worker, psychologist, and is being billed to insurance companies. With the need outpacing the capacity to attend care, we have to think of a different model. That's a very expensive, very time-consuming approach to care. The average psychologist can only attend to about 200 people in a given year, but there is 20 million people in line standing outside the door, and at 200 a year, it's going to take thousands and thousands of psychologists to address the problem.
People are falling through the cracks.
Right. We have to think about a type of care that includes both the clinical competence of that professional as well as the millions of people who are willing to attend to the needs of others in a helping role.
So how can churches partner with the medical industry or mental health capacity to get improvement for people? How do you see this merging together?
Yeah, I see pastors first identifying within their congregations the champion. that person within their church that they can rely on to help the pastor think through a program-specific, church-specific need.
So pastors may just feel ill-equipped themselves, right? I mean, someone in their congregation and they're like, well, how do I possibly help? I'm not trained for this, right? So you're saying identify someone who maybe have expertise in that?
Yeah. Centuries ago, the Puritan pastor Richard Baxter wrote a manual about care. And he went, in his church, he would visit every family every year. Well, a church in this culture a pastor cannot do that, like house calls. But there are people within the church, and there are collaborative relationships with professionals that are part of the Christian community by which care to full families, couples, individuals can be addressed.
Yeah. Heather, are you already seeing collaborations that have been successful?
Yes, I think we've gotten to the point where a lot of pastors are aware, look, I don't have the expertise. I need to refer out sometimes. So that is fantastic. But also, what we're seeing is, and you've probably seen this in your circle, I've seen it in mine, people can't get in to see their therapist, right? Yeah. There is a months-long wait. So, and even if they do get in to see a therapist, they need someone to walk alongside them before, during, and after. And so we're really advocating for the church to be eyes wide open, and how can the church come alongside therapists, and how can therapists work with churches? But right now, what we're talking about in the book is everything from peer groups, where people with different diagnoses or just frustration, sadness, discouragement get together and come together. And we're also seeing a lot of therapists connecting with pastors, working collaboratively. And that might just mean like a therapist coming alongside a youth pastor talking about cutting in the youth group or whatever it is. So there's a lot of organic movement right now that we're seeing that's really exciting.
What about this national pilot program you're working on? That's really going to make a difference. That's a fancy title, but it's helping people.
It's a gracious funding source has given us startup money to create a nationwide clearinghouse of resources around how churches can address the problem. And the title of it is called the Church Cares Initiative, and it can be found at thechurchcares, all one word, .com. So that is what I'm doing now post-book. The book identifies the problem. We're trying to create collaboratively with using advanced technology and mental health resources that are being developed from organizations all around the country, pool them together and make them available, disperse them to churches of every denomination, of every culture, and of every geographic setting. So urban, rural, suburban. We are seeking to develop programs for your church.
For people that are struggling, for families that are struggling, something you hit on in this book is compassion is so significant, right? There's empathy and there's compassion, but why is compassion so key when someone's struggling in your life that you love?
Yeah, compassion has feet. It goes somewhere. Empathy is just the emotional connection that if I am working with you, Andrew, as a client, as a psychologist, I can have tremendous empathy for you and your circumstance, but I don't go home with you. And I'll see you next week, and you'll work your plan, your instruction, your worksheets. You'll attend to those things individually, but there's a community around you that has the capacity to be investing in you every day. There's a behavior, there's a lifestyle, there's a relational factor that a clinician just can't possibly meet for you.
So last question here, we're about to run out of time. For a pastor who's struggling, sees this challenge in his congregation, doesn't know where to start, what's your wisdom for him or her?
Identify that collaborator, that champion within your church. Talk about what other churches in your community are doing specifically around what specific issues. Some churches, every church can't do everything, but we can do this and you're doing that. Third, look for sources of support like what we're developing at the Church Cares, so that you can address the needs specifically and develop a plan.
It's so important. This is a great resource. It is called Beyond the Clinical Hour. And we just need wisdom in the church, and this is a great resource for people to have that. Thank you both so much for joining us.
So glad to be here.
You're welcome.
And on behalf of Charlene, we say goodbye and God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow on 700 Club Interactive. Bye-bye.